Hello guys, and welcome to the video where we're gonna be exploring Inzoi's build mode. This time I'm gonna be running it in regular speed so that you can figure out what the game kind of sounds like in the background. It's not super loud, but it is fairly cheery. Mind you, I found this whole thing to be very awkward. It gives you a preset house, and I was like, how do I remove this? I eventually figured out how to remove this, but one issue with removing this is that you no longer have any kind of sense of scale. So building something that's normal is very hard. Now, mind you, I wanted to start with foundation, and I thought that platform is foundation. I don't actually know what is foundation, and I don't know what platform means. So that adventure went nowhere. The tools for building are intuitive and not at the same time. Like, furniture placement is very, very easy. The building itself, I really struggled with. Like, I placed this whole platform, then I was like, I want some walls. It was very hard to get the walls to build on a platform. But I think I wasn't supposed to have a platform to begin with, because a platform isn't really the same as foundation. You press escape in order to stop plopping down walls. I did like the selection on doors though. You know how I said that for Inzoi Creator, the meshes are lacking? For furnishing and building, the meshes don't feel like they're lacking. There is quite a healthy variety, and I never really felt like I didn't have enough. Though this is really weird. Like, you can't actually resize windows. I didn't find ways to resize windows, but a lot of the windows that are provided to you are friggin' giant, which really messes with your ability to figure out what scale is this. Because I never finished the first house that I was trying to build, because I went to staircases and I was like, I would like a second floor to this. This seems very small. And then I dragged out a staircase, and the staircase is bigger than the house, which kind of indicated to me that this was way too small, but there was no sense of scale, so I couldn't figure that out. And then I was like, how do I make it bigger? Because if you noticed, I started from like a platform and you just like plop a square. And yeah, you can drag that square. So I was like, can I just like drag a wall to make it bigger like I would on The Sims? Would that work? And the answer, I mean, is sort of. Like, how did this happen? One of the walls is now not aligned. So I could drag and make it go further, but what's this? How do I fix this? And then when you make it shrink, you have this very unsightly seam, and then like an extra bit of wall just kind of sticking out. So it feels like your house is partitioned. I could remove the extra wall that's sticking out, but the seams remaineth. And now I noticed that one side of this has platform for the background. The other side of this has floor. You also cannot like put stairs to go to a platform. So once again, platforms are not meant to be used as foundation. I wonder if the characters in-game can actually navigate it. Because I have no access to live mode, so I can't actually check whether or not he can actually navigate whatever it is that you made. So I was like, no, fuck it, let's start again. Let's make it bigger. So you have these kind of... You have a weird blueprint that you can just put on the floor so that you have a bit of a sense of scale, I guess. And then you can populate said blueprint. I didn't do that, but I did click around going, where's foundation? Spoiler, I never found it. You have a nice search function, but once again, no foundation. I don't know how foundations do BO. Also, now that I think about it, I never clicked on that staircase thing. Like, that's outside. So I don't actually know what that does. That just looked like building decoration, but it does look kind of clickable now that I'm rewatching my own footage. Anyway, we're gonna make it simple, guys. We're gonna make it a singular floor. Unless I wanted a bigger, something bigger, I was like 16 on 16, which is like medium. And then 7 on 5 and 7 on 5. So now I have 2 floors. And they kind of connect seamlessly, unless of course I want to re-dye one. Because I don't actually know how to save the dyes, nor how to copy-paste the dyes. So if I just want to preset wood, that is fine. But if I wanted to copy and paste that wood to the other platform, that is not fine. It for some reason doesn't work. What's even worse is that if I wanted some of the tiles inside the other platform to be of a different color, I couldn't do that. So like, you know how in The Sims you have like a tool for placing this? This is just, you have to be recoloring the whole thing. Please forgive my friend that was playing Tekken 8. That will keep on happening. I don't know why the overlay is that large. But anyway, without any way of copy-pasting this floor, I just have to try and match it by eye and hope that it matches. So this is like good enough. But at the same time, we now have 2 floors, like the small square and like the big square. And our customization is limited to those 2 floors. Technically we can customize by room, but I couldn't make the game recognize something that's enclosed by walls as a room. It decided that the whole building is a room, which definitely caused some problems. But now, see, this looks decent. This looks decent. That's roofing. I have absolutely no complaints about roofing. It's fairly easy to use, except that at one point I somehow deleted part of my roof. But then I like re-roofed. The only thing that I can think about is that just like with the tiles, I couldn't figure out how to copy-paste roof's color. So if I wanted to like roof 2 elements at the same time, I would need to sort of try and match them by eye, which isn't ideal. You can move the roof, you can pull the roof. Roofing works just fine. I'm very proud of us for having built a basic box because it feels really awkward. Honestly, furnishing doesn't feel awkward at all, but building feels very awkward. Another thing, it's hard to identify what is what. Then again, I am stupid, because if you can see that the words on the side tell me what's what. So I wanted to recolor the roof, and I accidentally started recoloring the gable. Once again, this is my first time interacting with it. I'm gonna be awkward with it. I bet a lot of people are gonna be awkward with it. It might feel better with more use, but at the same time, it's not quite what I'm used to. And there's just some kinks that need to be worked out. Like, once again, I can't really move the color from one roof to the other, so I kind of have to do it by hand. I did hear that some people hated the camera controls in this. For me, it felt really smooth. Like, the camera didn't over-rotate, the camera didn't over-slide. It just went as long as I wanted it to go. I thought that the texture on the door was weird, but no, it's just the inside of my house. It's because it's currently a completely black block, with there being no windows. So I was like, no, that looks wrong. Also, I kinda expected these to be like the Japanese paper doors. And I'm very surprised that they don't have that, but they have the barred, like, cell doors of, like, a prison. I suppose you could, like, use it in your parameter as, like, a fence thing. If you can figure out how to make fences and use doors inside fences, because I haven't tried, this was awkward. I was trying to figure out how to lower my viewpoint. If you can see that the building controls are listed, so it was home and end buttons. This is so awkward. That is such a giant window. A lot of these windows are giant and then your door ends up looking so small. I got the whole scale of the house entirely off, but because rescaling it is such a bitch, I just used it as like a canvas to try things out, but I was very not happy with it. Like this house, it actually has too much floor space. And it becomes very, very clear when I start placing furniture. But it's not clear when I just have a house built because I have nothing to compare its scale to. And at the same time, why are like half the windows this giant? So as I have nothing but like the tiny door and the giant window to try and base my scale off, I was all like, I should probably like separate a bathroom off. I think this is what undid my roof, because you can see that the roof is highlighting above. I don't know why, considering that all I'm doing is like internal walls, but roof was no likey. So our roof has just disappeared, which is fine, we can re-roof, but once again, this is very awkward. I did this wall and then noticed that outside of the fact that my friend is playing Tekken again, I noticed that there's like a tiny little gap. So I undid and then I did it again. You can make the two places entirely connect, but it's a lot harder to do it than like in Sims. Because sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm connecting, and then it leaves like a tiny gap. And you're like, okay, I'm no longer connecting. I placed the door and then I started to realize that I have really done goofed. Because look at that size of the door to the rest of the building. This is a massive space. I did not expect it to be a massive space, but my own perception hath failed me. I don't actually know what 15 meters x 15 meters is like in real life. Ability to measure scale for me here is like nil. I know that the game's trying to help me by telling me that this is a 15 meter and 15 meter floor tile, but my understanding does not exist. This is when I noticed that I can't actually recolor or change the floor just for the bathroom that I just made. This actually means that if you need to place floor tiles by themselves in order to change them, and I don't think that that's what it is. I think that there's some sort of a way to make the game recognize that a room is a room, but I couldn't figure it out. But Currently, what I would do is if I wanted a singular room to have a specific floor tile set, I would need to put down the smallest tile set, which is 7.5 x 7.5 meters, which is still giant. It's bigger than the bathroom that we made here, and this is the same problem. I can recolor by the wall. And mind you, I don't want to do that because I want my bathroom colors to be different from the rest of the house colors. But I can't get it to work that way. This is a tool for recoloring the whole room, but because it believes that my whole house is a room, I can't precisely use it. I don't know what it would take for it to recognize my bathroom as a separate room. I think that the easiest way to get this recognition is once again use 7.5 x 7.5 floor tiles for like each space that you have pre-planned, and then enclose that space, which would make it into a room, and then connect said rooms with extra walls if you need to, but that's so awkward. That is so awkward. I don't like it. I think some tweaking needs to be done, where either you allow me to like select a specific amount of like... There is sort of a thing now that I'm noticing, like plus and minus things. I haven't quite used them, I think. I couldn't figure it out. And this is another problem. Look, if I zoom in, it looks like it's gray walls. If I zoom in, you can zoom out, it looks like gray walls. If I zoom in, you can see the proper texture. I wonder what's doing this, but for me to figure out how the texture looks in game properly, I would need to be very, very zoomed in all the time and be like directly staring at that wall while I'm selecting this customization. I would love a paint tool like in Sims that would allow me to like paint part by part instead of having to paint the whole room. This is very turny-offy when it comes to building my own buildings. I have no complaints with furnishings, except of... Now look at this toilet. Look at the size of the place that I made. And this toilet. And now here's the funny bit. If I used 7.5 meters x 7.5 meters floor, that bathroom would be even bigger. Because our bedroom, which is to the side, is 7.5 x 7.5. So I could customize the bedroom's floors individually if I wanted to. This is not the kind of size of a bathroom that I would like to have. I would love a much, much smaller bathroom. Now this was a bit of fun because I can set the textures from like my saved AI generated textures if I wanted to, and I did. The only thing that in create a character, there is like a texture size control that allows me to see how much of the texture I want to see. Here there isn't, but I can still like... Well, there is pattern scale, but I couldn't figure out how to like move it up and down, so I just rescaled the pattern in order to make it be what I wanted it to be. Putting that pattern thing though made me kind of really happy, because decorating when you already have a space, outside of the fact that that rug glitched out, don't mind that, but decorating when you already have a space, it's very smooth. It's very intuitive, it's very easy to do. You just come on in, get an object, drag and drop and plop. It all also just nicely slots into place. So later on, you're gonna see when I'm gonna be placing down chairs, but like chairs hook up onto desks. So you don't need to worry how far or how close the chair is to the table. It just slots in. Now, another weird thing that I noticed is that things are not like arranged in price, and I wish that it was, because the cheap fridges, which is what I got, a cheap fridge, are like in the middle of the list. I don't know why they're there. Now, also because cheap fridges are more narrow, it is kind of impossible to get a cooker without like there being a gap between the fridge and the cooker, because the fridge doesn't consume the whole tile, and for some reason the wine rack is together with the cookers, which I thought doesn't make sense, except that that category is named as large kitchen appliances. I would move the wine rack out of it. There's also no way to like easily drag and drop several of these, so like I can't place counters in a row. I need to place a counter and then copy, and then place another counter and then press copy again, which is a bit non-intuitive and a bit burdensome, but honestly it works. I have no complaints with that. There's once again quite the selection of things. I don't know if that's just my perception or if there is quite the selection of things. And do remember that for the most of these you can customize it. So I could go in and paint and change the material, like copy paste whatever I want into it. I didn't want to mess around with the whole texturing anymore because I did quite a lot of it in the Create Inzoi, which is a separate video, by the way. You can go and watch it if you want. But it's not all. Like, later on I place a painting easel and you can't change that one's coloring at all. So some objects you can't do it, which is a bit unfortunate. And at this point I was really suffering with the size of my house. I was not enjoying it. It's like a basic selection of beds. It will do, pig. It will do. Maybe it's because I'm not like a super furnisher. These ones, I am slightly confused with them, and I would love to be able to test them out in live mode, because I kind of expected them to come with a chair, but they don't. So I'm like, can your Zoi use them as they are, or no? Like, what's the deal with that? The music is so pleasant though, it's like just chill piano. Here's another thing, you can't actually like resize any of the objects, which kind of sucks. So I couldn't like extend this rug or make that rug bigger, it's just the way that it is. So there's like a computer, here's the computer chairs. You can probably use a non-computer chair. Turning objects around is very easy. Now, I pulled out the laptop and I placed it, and it's another thing where size is really throwing me off. Because when I just placed the chair and the table, they both looked like they go with each other in size, and then I placed this little tiny laptop, and now it looks like the chair and the table are actually really bulky. I don't quite know how many decorations. This is a very weird choice. Like, you have normal bookcases and then you have like this book stand, which I would assume would work if you're making like a bookstore. But just the fact that it is here in like your workroom bookcases selection just kind of slightly throws me off. Like, I'm like, am I supposed to actually use this inside like a living building, or is this like for a store only, but I have access to all of it? Like, once again, when you're doing the Create a Zoe thing, you have access to all the clothing in every category, even though it feels like you shouldn't. Unlike in Create a Zoe, where there's still some Korean words, everything is translated here. You can have a really big TV or a very small one. I don't know if it's just me not being much of a builder or what, but to me, this amount of furniture is like enough to create like a cozy house. I think somebody's gonna like complain about it. They're gonna be like, not enough furniture, and I will be like, more than enough furniture. This is a very decent furniture selection, especially considering that you can recolor every single bit of furniture. Well, almost every single bit of furniture. You can't really recolor things like easels. That mechanical keyboard was another weird thing, because the full piano comes with a seat, but mechanical keyboard does not. Making me question if they just play it by standing up, or if they're gonna be upset that I'm not placing down a chair myself. That's the easel. An easel can't be recolored. That's grayed out. There's a lot of toys. Some of these are really cute and makes me really want to play with like children. And some of these are like tagged for toddler, but you can't make a toddler. Which makes me think that a toddler is in the game, you just can't create a toddler, you have to make one through the regular reproductional way. I plopped some lamps into what once again felt like way too big of a space, and then I wanted to see how much light we're actually getting from these lamps. Not a bad amount. Like, this would do. But there's something about the size of this whole thing. I do love how that chandelier renders in. I love chandeliers. Obviously, I don't have one in real life, because that's like a fancy person / castle thing. But come on, who doesn't like a giant light fixture? Something about the size of the space just feels so off. And I don't know why. Like, it's probably not that much space, because like when you populate it with furniture, the living room feels just enough, but I feel it as if I built it too big. Like, the space isn't being utilized. Maybe I built with the wrong kind of walls. Maybe I should have done shorter walls and smaller windows. But I feel like I would need to squash down the whole space, and whoopsie daisy, at some point I managed to delete the roof. I don't know how that happened. I think that happened when we were placing down walls. Once again, I think that the game wants you to build every room individually first, and then connect them, and then place the roof. So then the roof wouldn't delete itself. But that is so awkward. I ended up recoloring the wrong thing again. Like, furniture placing? Cool. Really simple. This whole putting a building together thing? I really want them to work on it. But hey, I managed to make a house or something that resembles a house. So overall, how did you guys fare with the build mode inside Inzoi if you tried it out? The Creative Studio, which is the make a Zoi and make a building, is free for everybody to access. You don't need to purchase the game, so you could like go and try it out yourself. I'm like of two opinions here because if I was just furnishing a space, not trying to dye the floor, not trying to like dye the walls, if I was just furnishing a space, it's cozy, it's easy, it's intuitive, there's enough furniture for me to feel completely fine. However, if I was building a building or trying to paint the space or trying to change flooring at the space, for me, the experience is actually of the level that is quite frustrating. Like, I would rate this at the 3 out of 10 when it comes to build elements themselves. And this could be my own ineptitude when it comes to it, but it's just, I like to expand and build upon my buildings from the over time. I don't just like to place a prefab outline that I then follow in order to assemble the rooms. And then if you at any point need to actually like change the room, that is so frustrating that you may as well like bulldoze the whole house and start over. I think that that area of the game really needs work. For a player like me, this would be very not intuitive to a point where it would frustrate me to use. So I would either have to painstakingly find workarounds for using this, for like actually building a building, which would be annoying. Once again, it would be like a 3 out of 10 experience. Or I would try and avoid using the building part. So for furnishing, I give them 8 out of 10. It could maybe use some variety, but you can change the texture. It is intuitive. It is easy to place down furnishings. It is easy to arrange furnishings. The chairs snap into the table that you're placing the chairs into, so it just connects nicely. There are a couple of problems, like the fact that furnishings are not arranged by price, so you have the cheapest ones like in the middle of the list, and then you have like a wine rack next to what is just stoves, but it's large kitchen appliances. That's the category. It's not just stoves. Well, in my opinion, you should like divide them into smaller categories, but that's fine. That's 8 out of 10. Easy to use, have no complaints, easy breezy, would use every day, would probably feel very nice, cute, and snuggly making my houses with nice music that's very calming playing. Building though, I would either avoid to using it entirely, or I would need to use it with so many caveats, like so many ways of just like getting around the clunk, that it would frustrate me. So I wouldn't enjoy building in this game at all. So it would really, really help if they could raise the building quality to at least maybe a 6 out of 10. Proposals that I can do. Let me declare what is and isn't a room. If I can declare what is and isn't a room, then I can assemble my house out of the floor tile prefabs that you can't really resize all that much from what I saw, which once again makes it kind of awkward. But that would allow me to change the floor inside what I have declared to be a room. and to change the walls inside what I declared to be a room without influencing the other rooms. That would be very, very nice. Please also don't delete my roofing just because I'm placing interior walls. My interior walls should not be interacting with the roof at all. And it shouldn't just like, pop, and delete the roof. It would be great if I could figure out how the copy-paste tool works for the coloring, because I tried pressing it several times. It was just telling me that the only objects that can match like that are objects of the same type. And considering that I'm trying to match a roof to a roof and a floor to a floor, I am super confused about that. If that could work easier so that I can copy paste my roof texture, so that I can copy paste my floor texture, Mirta would be a lot more happy. I feel like placing the floor textures, it would be nicer if it was more gradual than just 7.5 meters x 7.5 meters being the smallest measurement. That is very awkward to assemble a house out of. Do 1 meter by 1 meter at the very least. If I can go down to such like minutia, then I can use the smallest prefab and like place it down, quite a lot of it, and then I can assemble a building that way, allowing me a lot more control with how big I want my building to be. Like, at the moment, I'm letting the floor stick out because it's a quote-unquote patio, but it's patio that's connected to the inside of my house, and my house doesn't have a foundation. And if I change the colors of my patio, the floor on the inside of my house, including in my bathroom, will change. Very non-intuitive. I do not like it. 3 out of 10. I hope that they're gonna work on this, because otherwise I won't be able to really use this functionality. The game isn't just build mode, it isn't just like create the Inzoi mode, it's also live mode, so I really need the live mode in order to figure out what I think about it. So this isn't really a deal breaker for me, it's just the game's gonna be releasing into early access, and I find that the build mode tools right now are just too hard in order to use them the way that I would like to utilize them, which makes me not like the system, and therefore I have annoyance when it comes to this particular part of the game. If you have tried build mode yourself, please tell me where I went wrong. Like, give me advice. If you could figure it out, maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe that's what it is, but I think it should be more user intuitive. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm not gonna be making any more Inzoi content because I have quite like a few pre-recorded videos with their own like topics decided already, and the whole point was to give me time with this game to just be with me and to play together when I can finally purchase it when it releases into early access, so that I can make a more rounded opinion of it myself without like needing to involve any kind of recording of it or anything until like I'm set and I know what I'm thinking about it and how well the whole game functions as it is. So this is just like my preliminary reviews of things that we do have access to. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all my subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please take a look at what the rest of my channel does, because I do spirituality videos, I do gaming videos, I do tabletop videos. There's a nice variety of videos, but if people are annoyed by it, then they're not gonna have a nice time. So you have to make sure that this is the kind of content that you actually enjoy watching. And also, thank you so much for all my Patreon supporters that actually allow me to investigate the games that I really care about, like this one, even though this is the parts of the game that are free and open to everyone at the moment. So thank you for watching, and I hope that I'm gonna see you on my other videos. Bye, bye.